Before the pale dawn light crept over the Antarctic horizon, the immense rookery stirred as tens of thousands of Adelie penguins shuffled on the ice shelf. Chicks huddled beneath their parents' half-grown flanks, downy gray bodies pressing into the wind-scoured crust. Among them was Wisp, a fledgling no larger than a volleyball, whose soft feathers still clung damply to his skin. His parents, towering adults with sleek black backs and crystalline white bellies, guarded him fiercely, their webbed feet planted firmly in the frost. A hush fell across the colony when the distant cry of alarm cut through the morning chill. At the water's edge, the surface had fractured as a shadow surged through the surf. A leopard seal, sleek and powerful, its silvery gray skin etched with scars from countless hunts. With a fluid grace, it breached the flow, jaws agape in a tooth-raked grin. The seal's dark, unblinking eyes swept the nursery, fixing on its most vulnerable prey. Instantly, the rookery erupted into frantic cacophony. Parents trumpeted raucous calls, wings flapped in a frantic clamor, and chicks skittered in panic. Wisp's heart thundered as his mother pivoted toward him, pressing him close with a protective flap of her wing. His father let out a resonant bark, stomping the ice with intent to deter the predator. Yet the seal advanced, muscles rippling beneath its slick hide, each movement a promise of death. With no time to regroup, Wisp's parents nudged him toward the ice's jagged edge, where the floe met the swirling, open sea. In that moment of utter terror and instinctive ferocity, the seal lunged. Wisp's mother let out a final, defiant squawk, and with a mighty heave of his flippers, Wisp was propelled onto a nearby iceberg, half detached by tidal currents. As the floe cracked free with a resonant groan, Wisp found himself alone on a small, tilting platform, adrift in a vast, ice-strewn ocean. The seal's raucous roars faded behind him, replaced by the ominous groan of shifting ice and the endless expanse of frozen waves. Clinging to the slippery surface, Wisp's downy feathers plastered by spray, he realized he faced a perilous odyssey, a wild iceberg ride through treacherous, ice-choked waters to escape the hunter that pursued him, and perhaps an impossible journey back home. Wisp's tiny claws scrabbled for purchase as the fractured floe lurched away from the breeding shelf, carried by swirling currents and gusting katabatic winds. Each wave that slapped its jagged edge sent tremors through the ice, testing the chick's fragile grip. The air stung his downy feathers, laden with sharp flecks of spray that froze almost on contact. Below, the frigid sea churned with submerged ice pinnacles, hidden blades waiting to tear at the floe's underbelly. As the iceberg spun adrift, Wisp peered across the shattered expanse of pack ice, a labyrinth of shattered blue and white, each bergy bit bobbing like a ghostly vessel. Seabirds wheeled overhead, their harsh cries echoing the chick's panic. In the distance, the dark back of the leopard seal sliced through the water, eyes fixed on its prey. Every time the ice tilted downward, Wisp's heart lurched, flooded with terror and the agony of abandonment. Determined to survive, Wisp recalled the little bursts of swimming his parents had taught him. He mustered all his courage, flapping his stubby flippers with frantic strength and sliding over the ice to the nearest bergy bit. The floe's surface was slick with algae and frost. Each landing sent him skidding into the cold, threatening to tumble him into the brine. Yet he kept at it, edge by edge, floe to floe, his little body aching from effort, but driven by the singular will to live. At one narrow channel, the ice drift parted, revealing a ribbon of ink-black water. Wisp took a trembling breath and plunged in, his down instantly weighted by icy drops. He paddled with desperate strokes, muscles burning as he sought the next berg. Behind him, the seal's sleek shape burst through the waves, jaws snapping at the brackish surface. Just as its teeth grazed his tail, Wisp hauled himself onto a heaving sliver of ice, collapsing in a trembling heap of feathers and wet grit. Panting under the Antarctic dawn, Wisp realized this would be no short ordeal. Ahead lay an endless maze of unstable ice and hungry predators. But with each shivering breath, Each aching paddle, he found a flicker of hope, an ember of resilience that whispered survival was still within reach. And so, battered but unbowed, the little penguin chick readied himself for the drifting crucible that lay ahead, determined to outlast the ice and return to the life he had almost lost. Just as Wisp's strength began to wane, he spotted a sleek shape surfacing nearby, a juvenile leopard seal, smaller than the fearsome hunter that had driven him adrift. Its mottled gray coat bore fewer scars, and its dark eyes reflected both curiosity and caution. The seal pup surfaced with a series of inquisitive chirrups, nose twitching as it regarded the trembling penguin chick. Wisp backed away, flippers folded defensively across his chest. Instinct screamed danger, yet the seal pup made no aggressive move. Instead, it barked softly and swam in a gentle arc around Wisp's iceberg, nudging him with a playful tap of its snout. The chick's heart pounded, torn between fear and the desperate need for any help that might guide him towards safety. Gathering courage, Wisp gave a tentative chirp. The seal pup responded by diving beneath the ice, surfacing a few meters away beside a larger, more stable floe. It beckoned with a series of encouraging whimpers, flicking its tail to create ripples that lapped against the berg's edge. Realizing that this unlikely companion offered a path forward, Wisp slid down the slippery side and plunged into the frigid water. The young seal's whiskers twitched in approval as it paddled alongside Wisp, who flapped his stubby wings furiously to keep pace. The seal led the way, weaving through narrow channels of pack ice, surfacing at points where the ice was thickest. Each time Wisp hesitated, eyes wide at the yawning expanse of black water ahead, the seal pup barked reassurance and nudged him gently toward a safe stepping stone. Their journey together was a delicate dance of trust. Wisp learned to read the seal's sonar-like clicks, guiding him past submerged hummocks that could have trapped him beneath the ice. In return, Wisp's sharp cries alerted the seal to drifting slivers of sharp ice that might ground it. As they pressed onward beneath an overcast sky, a fragile friendship took root, one born of mutual vulnerability and the shared goal of survival. By the time the sun dipped low, painting the horizon in pale pink, Wisp and the juvenile seal had covered miles of treacherous floes. Exhausted but unbroken, they clambered onto a broad berg capped with snow. Side by side, the unlikely pair huddled against the biting wind, bodies pressed together for warmth. In the hush that fell over the ice, Wisp realized that even in the world's coldest reaches, compassion could bridge the gap between predator and prey, and that his unexpected ally held the key to his journey home. As the pale Antarctic twilight faded, the sky above transformed into a dome of frosty stars. Wisp and his seal companion pressed on beneath the glittering canopy, the chill of night deepening with every breath. The iceberg beneath their feet creaked softly as they traversed a narrow ridge that edges towards a maze of fractured floes. With each cautious step, Wisp's webbed feet sank into the crusted snow, leaving a fleeting trail that the moon's glow barely illuminated. Beside him, the young seal slid effortlessly across the ice, its sleek form gliding through shallow channels that Wisp could never have navigated alone. Their path wound through a labyrinth of ice spires and submerged pinnacles, some towering like crystalline spires, others barely visible beneath the surface. Every so often, the seal emitted a series of low clicks, directing Wisp to firmer ground or warning of thin ice overhead. At one point, Wisp stared down into a yawning crevasse whose obsidian depths swallowed starlight. The seal nudged him back, its warm bulk a reassuring presence against the night's savage beauty. When a sudden gust of katabatic wind howled across the floes, whipping ice crystals into a swirling blizzard, Wisp huddled close, and the seal circled protectively, its body forming a living shield against the gale. Hours passed in this edge-of-the-world odyssey, and as the stars shifted to pale dawn, the pair emerged on the fringe of a vast sea ice shelf. Beyond lay the rookery's distant hum of life, a muted lullaby that whispered of home. Wisp's heart swelled with hope as he spotted the black specks of adult penguins clustering against the skyline. The seal pup emitted a triumphant bark, then led the way down a shallow channel between towering ice walls. Wisp followed, each heartbeat echoing with relief, for he knew the treacherous expanse had been conquered by their unlikely bond, and that the final barrier to his family's embrace lay just beyond the rising sun. As the first pink light of dawn brushed the Antarctic sky, Wisp and his seal companion reached the edge of the vast sea ice shelf, a monumental wall of frozen water stretching endlessly to the horizon. The shelf's sheer face rose like a glacial fortress, its base carved by relentless tides into a serrated undercut. Above, the ice gleamed white and blue in the morning light. Below, inky water roiled where waves lashed against hidden ledges. Wisp's heart thundered at the sight. To his left, the shelf's edge was fractured by narrow cracks too deep and dark to cross. To his right, a tangled knot of brash ice and bergy bits threatened to trap any who ventured in. The rookery's distant calls now felt tantalizingly close, yet agonizingly out of reach. Clutching his seal friend's sleek back, Wisp scanned for any route through this forbidding barrier. The juvenile seal dived beneath the overhang and re-emerged at a narrow under-ice channel, barely a foot high. Clicking rapidly, it signaled Wisp to follow. With a gulp, the chick slid beneath the lip of the shelf, heart pounding as he crawled through the freezing passage. Above him, the ice groaned. Below, his webbed feet brushed against frigid water. Each careful inch carried the risk of collapse or a bounding tide that could sweep him into the abyss. At last, Wisp emerged into a hidden inlet on the far side, a sheltered cove of calm waters and floating brash ice. The seal pup surfaced beside him, whiskers frosted with ice crystals, and barked encouragement. Together they navigated a path of stable flows, leading toward the rocky shore where the rookery clattered with life. Behind them, the sea ice shelf's looming wall stood silent, its final barrier breached by courage and companionship. Heart pounding with triumph, Wisp scampered onto the gravel-strewn beach. Each step on solid rock felt like a promise fulfilled. Turning, he watched the seal pup slip back into the dark waters, eyes glinting in farewell. In that moment, predator and prey shared a silent salute, two survivors bound by an extraordinary journey across the frozen wastes. And as Wisp took his first confident strides toward the cheering throng of his penguin family, he knew that no wall of ice, however vast, could stand against the will to survive and the bond formed in the crucible of the polar night. Wisp's heart thundered as he crested the final ridge of pebbled beach and caught his first clear sight of the rookery. Tens of thousands of Adelie penguins dotted the ice like a living constellation. Black and white forms huddled in shifting clusters, their constant chorus rising in a deafening roar of anticipation. Each shrill bark and staccato chirp seemed to ripple across the frozen plain, carrying the miraculous news of his return. At the water's edge, Wisp's parents stood side by side, tossing their heads in frantic calls. His mother's wings flared in relief, shedding a honk that echoed like a foghorn. Ahead of them, a path had opened through the milling adults, an honor guard of elder penguins, who raised their flippers in salute as Wisp advanced. Each step closer, he felt the weight of every heartbeat in the colony, the collective pulse of generations who knew that survival here was a shared struggle. Leaping onto a low ridge of ice, Wisp gave a confident chirp that rose above the tumult. His father responded with a deep, resonant bark, and together they met in an embrace of flipper clasp and joyous nuzzle. Around them, chicks tumbled over one another in excitement, racing to witness the prodigal's safe homecoming. Parents offered grit-coated fish beaks as gifts, and Wisp seized a tender smelt with grateful chirps before sharing morsels with his immediate neighbors. Above, the Antarctic sun peeked from behind a bank of clouds, casting a single beam of light that illuminated Wisp's damp feathers, now grown sleek and resilient through his ordeal. A parent elder, her plumage tinged with the silver of many seasons, raised a flipper in dignified approval, then led a stately procession of rookery elders in a welcoming parade around Wisp. Younger chicks trailed behind in playful mimicry, their tiny bodies wobbling with glee. As the welcoming tide subsided, Wisp found himself cradled by the warmth of family. His mother tucked him beneath her sleek belly, offering the comfort and safety he had feared lost. His father stood guard, eyes scanning the waters for any sign of danger, though none dared challenge his chick's triumphant return. In the hush that followed, a solitary leopard seal surfaced beyond the surf, its dark silhouette a silent testament to the journey Wisp had braved. The seal gave a single mournful bark, perhaps in salute, perhaps in respect, before slipping beneath the waves. That evening, as the rookery settled beneath a violet sky, Wisp nestled amid the colony's buzzing life, heart still racing but filled with belonging. His journey across ice and ocean, forged in fear and sealed by unlikely friendship, had brought him home. And in every chirp and call that echoed across the frozen plain, the celebration rang clear. Against the greatest odds, love and courage had guided a tiny penguin chick back to the embrace of his family. In the days that followed Wisp's miraculous return, the rookery buzzed with whispered retellings of his odyssey. How he'd faced the churning iceberg, forged an unlikely alliance with a seal pup, and navigated the labyrinth of sea ice by starlight. Each tale shaped the colony's collective memory, passed from adult to chick in soft chirps beneath the waning sun. Wisp himself grew stronger with every sunrise, preening his sleek feathers until they gleamed like polished porcelain. Yet it was the spark in his bright eyes, the unspoken confidence in his waddle, that spoke of a deeper transformation. He led younger chicks on playful expeditions across safe stretches of ice, teaching them the dive and climb techniques he'd mastered on drifting floes. With patient chirps, he showed them how to read the ice, where crystals piled shallow and where currents threatened hidden gaps. Meanwhile, whispers of the seal pup's bravery spread among the seal colonies. Young seals emerged from kelp-forested shallows to greet Wisp at low tide, nudging him in recognition. Though they could not speak a penguin's language, their barbed clicks and gentle head taps spoke of respect forged in shared peril. Even the rookery's elders, once wary of interspecies contact, came to accept the seal as an honored guest, offering him bits of fish when he basked near the ice edge. One moonlit night, the entire rookery gathered on the upper ice shelf to honor Wisp's journey. Under the southern light's dancing glow, Wisp and the juvenile seal reunited on a mirrored patch of ice. Together they traced the path of his escape, stamping flippers and paw prints into the frost that glittered like stardust. The seal clicked in harmony with Wisp's chirps, weaving a song of unity that resonated across the frozen plain. As the northern horizon blushed with dawn, matriarch Alana, the oldest penguin in the colony, raised her wings and issued a solemn salute. Her deep, rolling call echoed through the ice fields, blessing both penguin and seal as kindred spirits of survival. In that moment, boundaries dissolved. Predator and prey became teachers to one another, their bond etched not in words, but in the shared language of trust and resilience. From that day on, Wisp's story guided every fledgling's first swim and every storm-ridden night. His daring ride taught the colony that courage could be kindled in the smallest of hearts, and that allyship could arise where least expected. And as generations to come stamped their flippers into the ice beside Wisp's legend-shaped trail, the rookery carried forward a simple truth. In the stark white world of ice and echo, the bravest journeys are those lit by friendship.